Hey there, today I'm going to be talking about two characters you probably don't know, but given what they can do on the table, you might want to find out. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. So, Atomic Mass Games, I think, unfortunately has had this wave of characters in the bag of tricks for a while now, and it's actually probably why we had a release gap earlier this year, which at the end of the day, I understand given some of the world events that unfortunately have been occurring with Russia's, and really probably more correctly, Putin's unprovoked attack on Ukraine, where I have personally had a friend staying and many more friends of friends. So I want to just say real quickly two things, and then I will get into my more typical review. But I feel like these circumstances present a couple of things that I want to address around these products. First is that this new wave of heroes in no way, shape, or form is going to profit Russia. Actually, Asmodee, Atomic Mass Games' parent company, donated 500,000 euros to a few different support groups working in Ukraine with relief efforts like the Red Cross, along with an unspecified number of free board games so that people can still find moments of joy amongst this ongoing tragedy. Secondly, I think it is up to us, and more importantly for us, to be able to distinguish and separate some, but not all, but some of the things happening in the world and our hobby spaces. If you don't want to play these new characters, that is up to you. But please don't think less of anyone who chooses to pick them up and play a game with plastic painted figures. Now, with that said, let's talk about a couple of very interesting characters to the game that we all love with Crimson Dynamo and Darkstar. Starting with the leader of the Winter Guard, Dmitry Bukharin. He has 6 stamina, moves short, but on a medium base at least, is size 3 and 4 threat. His physical and mystic defenses are both at 4, while his energy defense is at 3. So an already pretty tanky build at 4 threat. He has 2 attacks though. The first is an energy attack, Electric Blast. It is a beam 4 with a strength of 5 and costing nothing. For each attack made with the long-range beam, Dynamo will gain a power, and on a wild, the enemy target will gain the Shock Special Condition, really lowering their offensive output. His spinner isn't something I expect myself to use very often, given the potential damage output and power gain from his beam. But homing rockets is a physical attack that Iron Man players will be pretty familiar with. It has a range and strength of 5 for a cost of 2 power. Additionally though, this attack will ignore line of sight, and the defending character cannot benefit from cover, which is handy. But the only reason I can see myself really using this attack is for the wild explosive trigger, which can hand out 1 damage to each other enemy character within range 2 of the target. So if you have a target on 1 health and they are behind a building within range 2 of another enemy, homing rockets away. But on 5 dice, a wild is also still far from a sure thing. Skipping over the leadership for now and straight into the superpowers, first we have his active overcharge capacitors. It doesn't cost any power, but it does cost an action to let him gain 2 power that he can then spend on his next 2 superpowers. The first of those is his other active superpower, Propulsion Thrusters, that costs 2 and will let Dmitry place himself within range 2 of his current position. And like most movement-based superpowers, it can only be used once per turn. And this is really good for Crimson Dynamo, even more so than your average character, and I'll explain why in a moment. First, I want to talk about his reactive disruption field. It costs 2 to use and can be triggered when Crimson Dynamo or an allied character is targeted by an attack by an enemy that is within range 3 of Dmitry. He can then reroll up to 2 of the enemy's dice. And this is a really good ability, especially when your opponent is trying to hit specific results to trigger different things. The slight and really only downside is that you do have to use this superpower when your character is targeted, and as such before dice are rolled, so you won't be sure it's needed until it's too late, similar to Doctor Strange and Cable's defensive buff that they can give out. Crimson Dynamo then has 2 more innate powers. Flight, which will let him move easily over the terrain and stuff, even though he's only got a short move, so future-proofing and whatnot there. And carbodunadium matrix alloy, which I'm sure I just butchered the pronunciation of, but anyways, it will reduce incoming damage from enemy effects by 1 to a minimum of 1, which is always a welcome addition to any character, especially one with as much defensive tech that is already on his card. So, that does cover everything on his card though, and it's worth mentioning that there are no changes on his injured side. So, what is this guy going to be good at, and bad at for 4th threat? And I feel like it can be summed up that he isn't great at dealing damage, but he is amazing at mitigating the damage your opponent can put out. In this scenario that is going to force 1 or 2 big fights like Gamma Shelters or Infinity Formula is where I think he is going to shine, because between shock and force attack rerolls, Dynamo is going to shut down some teams' offensive output pretty hard on those kind of places. Not to mention, he too will reduce incoming damage at him with his beefy defensive stats and the damage reduction. However, much like any kind of fortress, Dynamo is going not to be put out a lot of damage. He's really there to mitigate it. He has his attacks, which are respectable, but not really any big swings. Additionally, he just doesn't have any additional ways to deal damage. Vision's Spender is one of the more consistent hitting ones, and he also has a size 3 throw. Rogue has a throw on her Spender and can deal some extra damage through a terrain throw or her power sap. Medusa has control elements galore on her attack and also a throw and rerolls on her card. And I could keep going, but no one has the defensive tech and build that Dynamo is bringing in the game. So just be aware of the trade-off you're making by bringing Dynamo over a character like Vision and vice versa. The last thing I want to circle back on really quick before moving on to the leadership is how big of a deal his play superpower is. For starters, action-free economy on any character is going to be good, if not great, especially on one who is a slow mover. But where this becomes amazing is with his beam attack. It means that CD can almost always line up a shot where allies aren't going to be hit, and you can hit multiple enemy characters. Sure, other times it'll just be a free move to reposition after getting pushed off a point, but its potential probably makes it the best range 2 place a character has had yet. As for affiliations this guy will do well with, well, I mean, probably wherever you want to put him. He has solid power generation, great defensive tech that can help squishy teams like Shadowlands Daredevil live longer, or make durable teams that have much harder to take down characters that much more difficult to take down. I think the question about bringing Crimson Dynamo is less about affiliation and more about the crisis scenarios and teams you bring him into the fight with. So bringing him against aggressively minded teams like Daredevil Syndicate or Black Order is going to be a fantastic call, where he may not really have as much to do against a team like the Web Warriors. There is of course also his home affiliation, of which he is the leader, the Winter Guard. So let's dive into leadership, the unbreakable red line, which is probably the more politically correct way to say the Iron Curtain. At the start of an allied character's activation, it may remove one special condition. Period. Nothing else. That's just kind of nice. Additionally, when an allied character is contesting a secure objective and would be pushed, it may roll a die, and on a crit, wild, or block, that character is not pushed. So the first part of this leadership is pretty similar to Thor's leadership, if not still a little bit different. So instead of having to spend a power, you just get a free status condition removal, which is amazing, but you can only remove it again during the beginning of that character's activation. So you can't remove an Incinerate handed out by Demons Downtown on your tanky character while still activating a heavy hitter first, which is a small downside, but still really just a nice first half of the leadership. The second half, though, is going to be really, really good in the matchups where it's going to be really, really good, and I think it's definitely going to come into play at least 50 matchups. Mike. And by that, I'm not just talking about the 3 in 8 chance of ignoring the push. Rather, there are going to be some teams that just don't have a way to push you at all. Black Order, for example, has plenty of throws, places, and but are not really big on the push game. Web Warriors, on the other hand, will hate, and I mean hate, playing into this leadership. On the bright side for the Web Warriors, if they fail to move an enemy with something like a web line or web snare, they can only move an enemy turn, so because they didn't get moved the first time, they can try it again, so the Indomitable ruling. Now let's move on to Darkstar, aka Lania Petrovna. She has 5 stamina, moves medium, is size 2 for 3 threat. Her physical and energy defenses are both at 3, while her mystic defense is a pretty nice 4, for an almost average 3 threat character frame. Her first attack is an energy dark force strike with a range of 4, strength of 5, and costs no power. It will gain her 1 guaranteed power though, and also has something pretty unique to an attack. This character may reroll all attack dice for this attack. Now, to clarify, this isn't Captain Marvel's Energy Blast, where she can reroll any of the dice that she wants, but leave the successes alone. This is a full reroll, more like what we have seen on Doctor Strange, but you won't get to reroll the skulls. So, still better to have it than not, but don't think that this is going to be an absurd attack like I first misread it as. Really though, a range 4 attack with some consistency is pretty nice for her fragile frame. And then her next attack is nice, but probably not where your power is going to be spent. Rending Force is an attack that can be physical or energy that has a range of 2, strength of 7 for 3 power. And if you roll a wild, the enemy character will gain the bleed special condition. So again, nice, but her power has better places to be spent in my opinion, and that is on one of her 2 superpowers. The first is her active Dimensional Portal. It costs 3 and will let Darkstar choose herself or another allied character that is within range 3 of her to be placed within range 3 of its current location. So a bit more expensive than Lockjaw's Teleport in power cost, but it doesn't cost an action. Of course, getting 3 power on Darkstar is also going to be a lot harder to achieve than with Lockjaw. So it kind of balances out. Her then reactive power, called Dark Force Barrier, also costs 3 to use and is triggered when she or an allied character within range 3 is targeted by a physical or energy attack. The defending character then gets 2 extra defense dice and cannot be pushed, advanced, or placed by the effects of that attack. And I dare say that is pretty handy, but again also pretty expensive for her at 3 power per attack. Finally, she also does have the Flight Innate Power and no changes on her backside. There isn't a lot on her cards, so I don't think I need to go into too deeply into the pros and cons stuff. Pros are her superpowers are really nice, especially that range 3 place. And her builder should put out damage more consistently than others. And even if it whiffs, it will still get her that 1 power that she is desperate for. Which leads me into the pretty 2 glaring cons. She is on that pretty fragile character frame and extremely power starved. I'm not sure how often she'll be able to double attack at a safe distance, but that is about her only power income other than taking damage, which admittedly she'll be taking pretty easily, but that's not something to brag about. So, where is she going to be best suited? And I think there are a few places that do come to mind. Inhumans being able to feed her power seems decent, and really her and Lockjaw teaming up to get Black Bolt or Medusa to the middle of the board before they even take an action kind of seems like a fun possibility for some high round 1 damage output. Other places that come to mind are her home affiliation, which seems full of relatively tanky characters, and I would be shocked if Ursa or Red Guardian don't have some sort of bodyguard or too dangerous to ignore ability to take attacks away from their squishier allies. And finally, A-Force. She-Hulk is going to be able to feed Darkstar power for her abilities, and then they end up kind of babysitting for each other. If a big attack is coming in and you need Darkstar to live, have Okoye or She-Hulk take that hit. If She-Hulk gets tossed out of position, then Darkstar can basically give her a free move to get back into the game and where she needs to be. But this wraps up my thoughts on Darkstar and Crimson Dynamo. Here at the end of the video, I want to give a shout out to the guild sponsors, Tritex Games and War Room Hobbies, both of which are local gaming stores that host game nights, events, and all that kind of stuff, as well as offering MCP miniatures at a bit of a discount. If you shop from them, use the code TritexGGCP5 at checkout when shopping with Tritex to save an extra 5% off, and use the code MCP2022 and it'll get you an extra 10% off of your order from War Room Hobbies. So if you're considering jumping on Heimdall and Scourge, or even that sweet new Malekith releasing soon and are shopping online, consider using these stores and discounts to help out a local gaming store and the channel. However, if you are shopping from your LGS already, do that. That's awesome. Keep supporting them. We give that a thumbs up. I don't know. But if you're still wanting a way to support the Guild's videos or podcasts, check out our Patreon page. And I will also real quickly say thank you to all the members of the Guild Hall who are supporting what we do. And the new project that will be coming to fruition, hopefully for the 3rd anniversary of the channel next month, is totally because of the support that you guys have shown us. We also do have a monthly giveaway thanks to Tritex. All you need to do to enter is be subscribed to the channel and leave a comment on a video the same month that video was released. And because I was out of town last weekend, I'm actually going to be doing the drawing for June's giveaway right now. All right, and here we go. It looks like our winner is going to be Super Honey Badger, not just a normal Honey Badger. I'm all for the changes, new formats. I think the rotation, new formats are healthy for the game, growth, all that. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Super Honey Badger. I'm excited for these changes. Disappointed in some, but you know that is what it is. Cool. I will reach out to you, and then I will also ask that if you can reach out to me, and we'll get you hooked up. Congratulations to the winner. Please reach out to me on Facebook or at the email address in the description so that we can hook you up with a non-Ultimate Encounter MCP expansion. As always, if you have enjoyed my thoughts and are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button for a weekly dose of MCP content in the form of reviews, battle reports, and other MCP goodness. And if you subscribe and leave a comment, you too will be entered for a MCP expansion giveaway. As well, you can find the Gamers Guild podcast on several different podcast apps and platforms if you're looking for more MCP content similar to this. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.